Papa Geoff's America program is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Thank you. If you'd like to buy Papa Geoff a cup of coffee, visit us on the web at coffee.papageoffusa.com, because you know how much Papa Geoff loves his coffee. Papa Geoff's America, the talk radio podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. It's talk radio time from Houston, Texas, broadcasting around the country and around the world. Welcome to the Papa Geoff's America program. We're the talk radio podcast that discusses the stuff and things that you want to talk about. The talk radio podcast continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. Inspiring guests, insightful commentary, and what would a day be without Papa Geoff's classic old guy humor, right? So, here's the guy that has trouble seeing the big E on the eye chart. The guy that some would say has a unique sense of humor, and the guy that definitely has a face for radio. Here's Mr. Here We Go himself, PG the OG, Papa Geoff. Welcome to Papa Geoff's America. The Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation one podcast at a time. I'm Papa Geoff, and this is Papa Geoff's America. On today's broadcast, have you ever wondered who's on the other end of the phone when you call 911? Well, today you're going to find out. Washoe County, Nevada Public Safety Dispatcher Jeremy Clark is with us, and he's going to tell it like it is. He's one of the dedicated and talented staff that is always there to help when you call 911 in Reno, Nevada. You're going to find out that it's not Reno 911. It's very real, and they're always there to help no matter what. Reno 911, the real deal, coming up in just a little bit. The Papa Geoff's America program, we are the talk radio podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. Here's today's fun coffee fact, according to thedailymeal.com. Circa 1735, Johann Sebastian Bach penned a thing that I am not even going to try and read, but it's also known as the coffee cantata. In the song, a father-daughter duo argues about how she drinks too much coffee, and that's why she doesn't have a husband. Alas, if she gave it up, she'd, quote, become so upset that I would be like a dried-up piece of roast goat. Okay, when her father gives her an ultimatum, she lies to please him, so while he's out finding her a husband, she secretly tells potential suitors that they must let her drink coffee as much as she wants if they want to marry her. Alrighty then, it's a deal. It's cloudy and 88 degrees at the Taco G Studios in H-Town, Space City, Houston, Texas. We're the city with no limits. We're Houston strong. Coming up for us after the break, Reno 911, the real deal, with Jeremy Clark. Next. The Papa Geoff's America program is on the air, anytime, any device, papageoffusa.com. Welcome back. Our guest today from Reno, Nevada, Sparks, Nevada, Washoe County, Nevada, is Jeremy Clark. Jeremy is a very unique position Jeremy has for a long time. Jeremy's a 911 dispatcher, a communication specialist, and I'm sure he's got a lot of other official names for it. But Jeremy's an awesome guy, and he does an awesome public service along with our other colleagues there, not only in Reno Sparks, but throughout the country. Jeremy, I am honored, my friend. Welcome to the program. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, well, thank you, Papa Geoff. It's good to be here.
We actually went and celebrated National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. So there's another title, guys. He's a public safety telecommunicator, and that was from April 11th to April 17th, and that is definitely, we appreciate everybody that works in police, fire, and EMS, and he does a great job, I will tell you, because I I'll tell you a little secret. I've never actually met Jeremy face to face, but I knew who you were all the way back from when I worked in casino security. Because
Hmm.
when we were in the office, we had REMSA, who's the medical agency in Reno, and we had Reno PD, Washoe Sheriff, et cetera, on the scanner. And there was this guy with this awesome voice. And it's like that voice. And I'm a, I'm a guy with voices, and your voice, especially on the radio, is unmistakable. It's, and then when I got on with REMSA, the ambulance agency, and I would hear that voice coming through the radio that officer is carrying, or the radio that firefighter is carrying, or that, who is that? Because this voice is unmistakable. This is a Larry King, Don Imus, Gary Owens voice. Well, I found out really quick who that was because I talked to you several times on the phone over the years, and now you work for Washoe County up at the Regional Public Training Safety Center, 911, police, fire, medical, et cetera. And I just appreciate you coming on. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works? Guys, I want to tell you in the beginning, because we want to talk about Jeremy. We don't want to talk about me, the guy who likes to hear his own voice. But this is not Reno 911. Okay. That was a funny show, and but this is, this is literally life and death stuff. This is the real deal, and everybody that does it takes it very seriously. They still got a sense of humor. I guarantee you, they have that police, fire, EMS odd sense of humor that I have, but it's the real deal. And but Jeremy, tell us a little about what it is that you do.
Well, so I've been employed as a public safety dispatcher. That's another term to throw out there.
There you go.
Been there for just a hair over 22 years. For our center, we basically answer the 911 lines and non-emergency lines for the greater basically Reno, Nevada area. Sometimes because of cell phones and the popularity of them and everything, of course, nowadays, we still get some 911 calls from outlying areas, whether it's Sparks or Story County, any one of the many counties around us. But yeah, it's an interesting job. When I first applied way back when, I didn't know really what I was getting into. So I remember doing a sit along and was overwhelmed. It was interesting to see, there was only these handful of people during this period of time that took all the phone calls for anybody having some sort of an emergency or needing, police or fire, medical. There was only these handful of people. I think there was maybe 10 or 15 people in there at the time, answering all these calls, and it blew me away. I had gotten into amateur radio, ham radio, so radio stuff kind of piqued my interest, and so I applied, and well, here I am, like I said, 22 years later, and still going strong. It's every day is a different day. Yeah, that's something that with this line of work, you don't experience the exact same stuff each and every day. Every day is different.
Boy, that is the truth. I used to say that, even and of course I was with the medical agency for far less years than what you're doing. But, I used to say I never would say I've seen it all, because then ultimately, if I did say that, I'd see something new, because there is something new. But every day is different. It's a variation of things that you've already done, maybe, but sometimes it's just something absolutely just way, way different. Now, when I was there, I remember that 911 would be it would go to you guys up on, for those of us that are familiar with the area, it's up on the hill by Truckee Meadows Community College. And you guys would get the call, police, fire, medical. Medical calls would get transferred to REMSA, the medical agency, but you guys would stay on the line and start taking initial information. Of course, you're staying on the line to make sure that the call doesn't drop. And REMSA would take over the call, and then they did their own dispatching and call taking, if you will, and such. But then you guys would then, if it was a fire or fire or police call, then you guys would jump on and take the call and send whatever help they needed and stay on the line if that's what they needed. Because some people just need to hear that calming voice that, they're in the middle of maybe the worst day of their life. And sometimes just that calming voice with Jeremy on the other end of the phone, is what people need. I know you found that.
Right. Yeah. We do when we get those 911 lines, we always, well, now we changed a bit of how we do things a little bit. Now we, ask what the location is, because that's first and foremost the most important thing we need to know. Because without knowing where you're at, we have no idea where to send help. So we always, try to pinpoint and nail down that location, get us the address, if it's a house, apartment, business, where exactly are you? Then we go into, getting your phone number, just in case we get disconnected, we can call back. And then we go into, what exactly is going on. Tell me exactly what happened. And, and then we decipher from the information the caller gives us. We make the determination, okay, is this going to be a police call? Is this going to be a fire call? Is this going to be a medical call? And we go through our questioning process appropriately, depending on, what the circumstance at hand is going on for that particular call. So, in that case, like you just said, with a medical call, if it meets a criteria for our fire department to respond, because they do respond to medical calls as well. We enter the call for the fire department, and in turn transfer the call over to the paramedic service, and we stay on the line now to just make sure that they get the address, the phone number, and then we disconnect, as long as we don't hear anything that would require police to respond as well, in that event, for scene safety for the medical personnel that are responding. So
oh yeah, I remember that a lot. Yes. Yeah, definitely. I can remember a lot of calls where it was, stand by out of the area, and people would say, well, how come you weren't here and whatever? Because law enforcement's going to come in and make sure that we're safe, and no,
right.
that's very important. Washoe County, guys, for you guys that are not familiar with the area, is Reno, Sparks, and the surrounding area, the Truckee Meadows. And a lot of people, at least what I've found, was that you mention I live in Reno and they automatically click that you live in Las Vegas, which is no, it's hours apart. And Las Vegas is Southern Nevada. Washoe County, Reno, Sparks is Northern Nevada. According to here's your fun fact of the day, the U.S. Census Bureau, Washoe County has a total area of 6,542 square miles.
Yep.
And to break it down, is 6,302 of that is land, and 240 square miles, or 3.7%, I did not do the math, is water. And so you guys, not only, like you said, you have Story County and the adjoining counties, and there's mutual aid for adjacent counties, because everybody in that business works together. We want to get you. We listen to that. See, it's in the blood. It doesn't leave. We want to get you the resource that's the closest to you, that can get to you the fastest. And Washoe County itself, I know when I was there, and I was in Reno for 15 years, grew over the 400,000 mark in population. And that was one of the things. I was working in the casino security business at that time. And the 400,000 mark was one of the things that triggered several different things that casinos had to do. But as of the 2021 estimated population is 485,849, and that's up, call it a point and a half, 1.5% over the past year. And so Reno Sparks is growing. The housing market is just crazy. I wish it was that crazy when I was in real estate there, but
Right.
it's changing, and people at least used to be able to sell their California home and almost buy two homes in the Truckee Meadows. Maybe not quite so much now, but It's different. Now, you said when you came in and you did a sit along, and I can relate to that because, well, excuse me, when we were in the paramedic service, we had to go in once a year for what they called dispatch training. We weren't doing the dispatching; we were doing the sit along, and I heard some pretty crazy stuff come in. And um, how long is that training? That well, on average, how long is the training to do initially what it is you do? I know that's ongoing, and there's all kinds of in-service stuff, and you're always building on the foundation. But how long is it to get to do what you do?
Yeah, so when you get hired, you enter the training phase, and each position has its own training phases. We have call taking, which is the 911 non-emergency lines. We then have our radio channels. We have our secondary channel, which is its own training program. The primary channel for dispatching the calls that come in that require police, that's another part of training. And then the fire department. So when you get hired, you're on a probationary period for 18 months. And depending on how you're grasping and learning the important functions of the job, there's minimum set of hours that you have to have before you can certify. But usually most people, I would say probably at least, and this is just a guess because I'm not in the numbers and stuff, but I would guess maybe about 95 to 98% of people complete training in each one of those positions within 12 months.
Okay.
So sometimes some people take more, as long as they're showing that they're progressing and not going backwards. It can be extended. But yeah, so that's roughly about the averages, roughly about, I would say 12 to 14 months is, ballparkish to be completely certified to be able to handle call taking, the police dispatching side, and the fire department dispatching side.
So there's just so much more to it than people really think. I know from my standpoint, it was that as well. And an 18-month probation period is quite lengthy, so it's quite the process to get in and do that. But it's an awesome position, and once you start doing it, I would think that it becomes, well, I'm sure there's got to be that, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But then eventually it becomes rewarding. And did you do you get any one type of call more than others? Anything specific that you see? Hey, we get more of this than we get more of that.
Um, I knew that would come up too.
That's a tough question, I know.
Yeah. I would say domestics are a big one that happens. That's an everyday occurrence. We get those, morning, noon, night. It doesn't matter. Being a 24-hour town here, there's always something going on. Alarms. So we're talking, whether they're burglary alarms, fire alarms, those are a constant. So noise complaints, those are big ones. We get a lot of those. So yeah, I would say those are, some of the more consistent types of calls that are always in, and then everything kind of depends on the time of year, believe it or not. So, we're coming into spring, summer time here. And so now we get to deal with brush fires. Those are big ones, because of our mountain ranges here and the dry brush and everything. So brush fires are a big one. Structure fires, believe it or not, river rescues. The Truckee River runs right through the middle of downtown.
Yes.
And a lot of people like to go down there to cool off because it does get hot here in the summer. So we get river rescues. Those are big ones during the summertime. You get into the winter time, you kind of get a little bit more of the structure fires that happen because people are more staying in home, and for some reason those go up during the winter time. And of course domestics kind of go up. So yeah, I would say those, are, everything's really dependent upon time of year.
That really makes sense though, because a lot of stuff is seasonal, especially in that area. Like you mentioned, it's a 24-hour town, and boy, it is, because that's one thing I think that I found is that there is no last call for alcohol in Reno. It's well, Nevada, that no, and so you can deal with any type of alcohol related call at any time of the day or night, and boy, we did, and that's one of the things that I tell people, that's what got me interested in getting on with the ambulance paramedic service, was that when I worked in casino, I ended up working the overnight shift, the graveyard shift, and I was the manager on that shift. And what do you do when you work graveyard in a casino? Well, it's alcohol related calls and
Yep.
medicals, and that's what you do. And I mean, there's other stuff, but mostly those are the type of calls we had. And working those, the paramedics were like always there at the casino, and I got to meet a lot of them. And we'd talk and developed a relationship, and it was like, well, and then when the casino, that particular casino, was making some management changes, I said, I think I want to get on with the ambulance service. And at that time, it took about a year's time to do it, because it was just a long, long process. When I left the paramedic service, it was a little bit easier, not quite as easy as fog the mirror, you qualify, but it was a whole lot easier than it was when I first got on. But I knew a lot of people when I started there, just being a baby EMT, if you will. And people would look at me and say, "Don't I know you?" "Yeah, you know me from the casino." And yeah. And, then that's where the Papa Geoff moniker came from, was from REMSA, the medical service. And so it just stuck. So Papa Geoff is still alive and doing well, still has trouble seeing the big E on the eye chart. But hey, here I am. I'm still blessed. And, I get asked this all the time, mainly my daughters will ask me this, and there is no really good answer. And you handle so many calls over the years, and especially in the 22 plus mark. Is there, without getting into things that you can't talk about, of course, that's not where I'm going, but is there something that's like the craziest call you ever handled?
Yeah, and dispatchers get asked that a lot.
Yeah.
What is your craziest call? What's the weirdest thing you've ever handled? And um, there's far too many to count.
Oh yeah.
Especially over 22 years. Um, so you know, each call has its own unique, circumstances surrounding it. And based upon what questions we ask, what answers we get,
Mm-hmm.
can dictate it, whether it's going to be a crazy call or not. um we we've taken phone calls of, from anywhere from, just your plain Jane citizen calling in saying they're chasing somebody down the street that stole their, lawn ornament, upwards to, off-duty personnel that, are chasing down, a suspect that stole something from a store, just things like that. So, you know, with this line of work, to define the craziest call, there's not really any way to define it, because, like I said, any call can be a crazy call. Um, it's just a matter of how crazy can it get.
No, I completely agree. And I was able to recall a couple of them that, and I told my daughter, and she says, "Really?" Yeah, this kind of stuff really happens. And I know it's impossible to put any kind of a thing on it, because they range everything literally from soup to nuts. They really do. And during that, the annual dispatch training, the sit time that we had, I can remember I was sitting with the call taker and listening, and I cannot even imagine what my face looked like. But the caller was a wife who had come home, and she found that her husband had hung himself in the garage. And I can't imagine that. But that call taker was just, I mean, literally perfect. And okay, here's what I need you to do. And we're on the way, and a lot of help coming your way. And here's what you need to do. I mean, you knew from hearing on the line that obviously the person was deceased, but that was kind of a tough one. That was very early on in my career. And then when you actually go on those calls and that's actually what you see, because we all know that people that work in the field see things, do things, put their hands in things that people were not designed to do. And it does kind of, take its toll on you. For me personally, the calls having to do with small children, babies, those were the tough ones. And those having to do with colleagues, co-responders, things like that.
Yeah.
You'd go on a call and I can remember several that just, okay, you got to do your job, take a deep breath, do what you need to do, and you just do it. But yeah, it does, a lot of these calls take on a life of their own. They do. But you got to have other stuff to do. It can't, sometimes the newbies, if you will, the young guys. I was not the guy that I was good at trauma, but I wasn't the guy that needed to go to the car wreck where the guy's head is barely hanging on. That wasn't my thing. I like to, I would rather hold grandma's hand on the way to the hospital. She's having a heart attack. I think she's doing okay from what I'm seeing. You're not supposed to tell them that you're going to be okay because you don't know, but we're doing everything we can for you. Just hang in there, talk to me, squeeze my hand, this kind of stuff. That's what I was good at. And then afterwards you fall apart or go kick the tire in the ambulance or, whatever happens. But how do you
Yeah.
unwind after work? How do you keep things straight after the things that you hear and that you have to get people out to?
Um, that's a good one. I like that question. After all these years, when I first started, it was kind of hard to do that disconnect,
Yeah.
because all we get to do is hear it. You hear the fear, you hear the pain, um, the anxiety, you hear all of that. And so after, working a, 10 or 12-hour shift, depending, on how many hours you're working that day, um, it's hard to disconnect, especially when you're first new. You're like, oh, this is an exciting job. And,
Yeah.
and then you start getting into it and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I get into? And for me, unwinding is, especially now, the second that it's time for me to go, I disconnect. I walk out the doors, and what happens at work is now behind me. And now I've got my family that I'm coming home to sit and laugh and chit chat and figure out what everybody did for the day. Um, and, having wife and kids and stuff, that was my safe zone, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
and my way to unwind. Um, Outside of that, I have different hobbies. I enjoy going out, target shooting, being a hunter. I like to go out and shoot guns. It's kind of a, believe it or not, it's therapy. I can take out
Yes.
aggression on a piece of paper, 10, 20 yards down the range, and just go out there and just boom, 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 just release that built up stress or whatever. Going out and camping. I love to be outdoors. So, going out and camping, or, even just taking a walk around the block with the dog, or,
Yeah.
whatever, those are all things that are de-stressors for me, and, help me to de-stress and unwind and just relax. And, and then, we work 4 10-hour days. That's the schedule that we're on, plus overtime. So when I get a 3-day weekend, those are 3 days that are to myself. I don't worry about what's going on at work. I don't worry about the sirens that are flying down the road by my house. I don't worry about it because A, I'm not at work, and B,
Right.
it's none of my business. And, so it's nice. And, now being a grandpa, having a 3-year-old granddaughter and a year-and-a-half-year-old, year-and-a-half-year-old, I can't talk today, grandson.
By being a grandpa.
That's right. Yeah. Excuse me. Having grandchildren now is even, another, believe it or not, another method to de-stress, even
Yes.
though they're just rambunctious and full of energy. um, being able to have them over for, a night, or, we babysit them every once in a while, and it's a de-stressor, so the biggest thing is just finding things to do to, do your self-care in that sense. You got to take care of yourself, so that you can take care of others in this line of work. And, whether it's a hobby or, like I said, going out camping, off-roading, hiking, whatever helps you de-stress is, the biggest thing. So, and those are mine, those are my biggest ones. So
You definitely have to do it because that is a high stress job. Some people may think it's not. It is. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. Police, fire, and EMS are definitely, and everything associated with it. Not nurses, hospital staff, everyone involved in those high stressor jobs has to have a way to decompress. I agree with you with the shooting. That's I enjoyed shooting. I was out in Red Rock, and we had some areas out there that we were able to shoot just out there in the unincorporated area of the county. And that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. I had horses for a lot of years, so that was a very expensive hobby, but very cathartic, and very did take the stress down. And and you're in the right area for those type of activities for sure. You mentioned camping. I'm so old that camping to me is, which Marriott are we going to? That's for sure. So what's next on your agenda for Jeremy Clark? Where you're going to hang out at Washoe County, and anything special coming up in the future that you're going to be doing? Or are you kind of just staying on the road and keeping on?
now, like I said, I got a tad over 7 years, 8 months, to retirement. So, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, changes coming. But I am looking forward to that, big retirement. I literally will be able to retire 3 weeks shy of turning 51 years old, with 30 years in.
There you go.
So that gives me a good retirement. And, from there, as much as our area has grown, it's outgrown me. I don't like how big it is here. So, we'll be looking to find somewhere smaller, somewhere out where, my nearest neighbor is maybe, 1 to 5, 10, 20 miles away.
Exactly.
I want to see something different, do something different. I'm, grateful for, the job that I got. And, like I said, it's rewarding. It's stressful. It's, sometimes frustrating. But what job really isn't, so,
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade doing what I'm doing now for anything. I enjoy this. And, like I said, I've got, fantastic coworkers that I work with. We all work as a very cohesive team. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. So,
There you go.
We've had, lots of different calls, where it literally was all hands on deck. We've had, very publicized incident. I don't remember how many years back, but when we had the shooting involving our one of our judges, Chuck Weller, that was a big incident. And, literally everybody in the room was making phone calls, was handling just different aspects of the type of call, that we were dealing with, making sure proper notifications were made, and, stuff like that. So, thankfully, everything turned out, all right. Thankfully we didn't lose anybody, as a result of that shooting.
I remember
So
that day. Yeah.
yeah, it was, you wouldn't tell by, whether you called 911 or you were listening to a scanner, listening to the radio traffic, you wouldn't tell that it was a chaotic, scene in the dispatch center. But, we had all of our supervisors on duty, were out there, our management, everybody's picking up phones to do stuff, etc. So, So you never hear, any of the craziness in a sense that's going on behind the scenes. You're not hearing the, hollering across the room, that, hey, I got this phone call, or I've notified that person, I did this. You never hear any of that stuff. And it's, there's a reason for that. We remain professional at all times, whether we're on a telephone call or on the radio, because that's what we're supposed to do. And it's a requirement to do. So yes, I mean, like I said, it's as crazy and chaotic as it can be. Like I said, we work as a extremely cohesive team, and we've got, just like I said, people from all different aspects of life that are doing this job. And, and we all, when it gets down to it, we all do the exact same job, whether it's here, locally in Reno, Nevada, or anywhere across the country. Our job is to be that calm, cool, collected voice on the other end of the line, to maintain that composure and walk you through whatever it is that you're going through until the help gets there to further help you. So
absolutely. And you guys are there every time, every call. And the person that's calling may not know it, that you guys are all in the office and your hair's on fire, but you won't know it. And everything is the help is there, and someone will always be there to answer that call. And there will always be folks that are available to come out and handle whatever it is you need. And bless you guys for doing what you do. I used to tell my patients that you don't need to panic. You don't need to panic until you see me panic, and you won't see me panic. So we're doing everything we can for you. Just work with me here. We're going to get you to the hospital as quick as we can, and we're going to do everything we can for you. So that was our job, and I loved it for the years that I did it. I met a lot of great people, including you, and I miss the driving fast. I miss the driving on the wrong side of the street. That was always cool. But there are other things that I don't miss. And so I'm where I need to be right now. That's for sure. Guys, if you have questions about 911 or about dispatching or about anything that we've discussed here, go ahead and send us an email here. You can go to our website, papageoffusa.com. I will get those questions to Jeremy, and I will also put in our show notes the link to the Washoe County, Nevada website, so that you guys can check out a little bit more specific about what happens in Washoe County and Reno, Sparks, the Truckee Meadows, etc. Maybe you want to take a summer visit out there to that 24-hour town, the biggest little city. And that's definitely no lie. Jeremy, thanks so much for coming on today. We hope you'll come back and see us. Be well, my friend. Cheers.
All right. Thank you very much.
This is the Papa Geoff's America program. We are the Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. Thanks for joining us today for the Papa Geoff's America program. Check out more episodes of the Talk Radio Podcast at papageoffusa.com. You can subscribe through the link on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all the major platforms. papageoffusa.com is your home for everything Papa Geoff. Anytime, any device. And while you're there, you can check out more episodes of the broadcast, check out the OG Corner, get in contact with us, and you can easily link to all of our social media. We do want to hear from you. Your thoughts, comments, and suggestions are what make this program happen. So send us an email on our website, papageoffusa.com. Please help us to get the word out and share our broadcast on all of your social media, because sharing is caring. And speaking of caring, if you'd like to help us coffee up here at the Talk Radio Podcast, give a click to the Buy Me a Coffee link. You know how much Papa Geoff loves his coffee. Hey guys, remember to wear a mask if you're going out. Practice that social distancing. Wash your hands frequently. Get the vaccine when it's your turn. And let's all do the right thing and take care of each other. Remember, disagree doesn't mean dislike. We're all in this together. Thanks again for joining us, and bring a friend with you next time. We're looking forward to seeing you next time on the Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time.